Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. I want to first thank you all for joining us today. We're excited to dive into a very important topic, which is how hospitals can increase patient satisfaction scores by enhancing the environment. In this webinar, we'll be talking about the importance of hospital cleanliness, the limitations of traditional cleaning methods, benefits of floor cleaning robots, implementation and maintenance considerations, and then we'll have about 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. Feel free to submit any questions you have in the question chat at the bottom of the Zoom, and we'll answer those all at the end of the webinar. So today I'd like to introduce our wonderful speakers. We have Tanya Johnson, who is the Director of Environmental and Risk Management Services at Winona Health. Winona Health is a community-owned integrated healthcare system designed to care for people through all stages of life. Tanya graduated with a BA in Healthcare Leadership and Administration and a Master's of Science in Healthcare Leadership from Winona State University, and now has over 25 years of experience in the healthcare service industry. At Winona Health, she oversees the several service departments, including environmental services, where her team has implemented several automated cleaning tools over the last 3 years. And of course, we have our second speaker, our very own Chris Wetmore. Chris is the Vice President of Sales at ICE Cobotics. ICE Cobotics, if you're not familiar, is a global leader in floor cleaning technology and solutions that specializes in autonomous equipment, and it has offices in the US, Europe, and China. Chris is an award-winning global sales leader with over 30 years of experience in the cleaning industry. And Chris is passionate about improving human wellness through autonomous solutions. So let's get started. I'm going to pass it over to Tanya to begin.
Hello, everybody. An alarming statistic to start off. We have about 687,000 people contract hospital-acquired infections annually in the US. That's about 1 in 31 patients on any given day. And usually we end up with about 72,000 people who die because of those hospital-acquired infections.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay, we have our first poll question for the audience. You'll see that pop up on your screen here. We'll give you about 20 seconds to answer the poll, and then we'll review the results together. So the question is, what are your biggest challenges when it comes to keeping your healthcare facility clean? Is it inadequate equipment, staffing issues, time constraints, or other? We appreciate everyone's participation in this poll, as we'd love to address your biggest challenges in the webinar today. So thank you for answering. Curtis, we'd love to see those results when you have a second. Okay, answers are in. It looks like staffing issues is the biggest challenge when it comes to keeping healthcare facilities clean. So I'll pass it over to Chris and Tanya to comment.
Yeah, that's very, very much in line with some of the requests that we see throughout our travels in healthcare business, and really across all vertical markets at this point. So not surprised at that at all. Yeah, how about you, Tanya?
Yeah, that was actually probably one of the biggest challenges my healthcare facility faced in our environmental services department, and why we started to look at other options.
Right.
So we have limitations of traditional cleaning methods. We all know how a mop and a bucket work. There's increased potential for unsanitary conditions using those traditional floor cleaning methods. You basically are spreading dirty water and germs around the facility instead of really cleaning it. Repetitive work is really hard on the body, and that comes from, that repetitive bent over mopping. There's actually about 54% of healthcare related injuries that are due to the repetitive motion of things like mopping and vacuuming and things like that. And these methods are also really time consuming. We just talked about, we don't have enough staff, and it takes a long time to use traditional methods to clean floors.
Yeah, and that piece on time tends to be kind of the precursor of why hospitals, why acute care, and really all facets of healthcare are really looking at autonomous floor cleaning more and more. It becomes just something that you can impact. If you want to just go ahead and advance that, Brittany, you can impact in a variety of ways by instituting automation. We found first and foremost the actual increase in cleaning and frequency of cleaning brings new levels of clean to facilities. And when we talk about infection prevention, cross-contamination, obviously improving health and safety, it's that frequency that tends to really dive into how these can be measured and how they are measured and the impact and the results of that. So for us, this tends to be one of the very first things that we talk about in the robotic and automation space is I can do this more. And we'll get to the efficiency part in a sec. But Tanya, from your perspective, are there any other components to the consistency of this thing that maybe comes to mind for you at Winona?
Really, it's everything you kind of touched on, but one of the best things, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, is that you can kind of set it and forget it a little bit while it's running. So it really takes kind of the guesswork out of a lot of things.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So let's talk about maybe the efficiency a little bit more, because I think this is where you really start to see, and based on the poll results around staffing, this ties in directly to it. If automation can save your team time, one of the principal questions and considerations you should have is, even though it's automated, it still is a cobot. And by cobot, we mean it's something that you have human intervention with. It's not nothing you would institute would be fully robotic. So from a cobot perspective, I can free your staff up, I can supplement your labor, I can save you time, but it has to be measured. And for example, I think from an intervention time perspective, some of our solutions range in about that 7 to 8% of the time is actually intervention. And what we mean by intervention, it's staging, it's starting the unit, it's maybe doing any interim dump and fill of the water out of in this case of what you see pictured here is a scrubber. That's a great example. Like you have to really measure intervention time, and I think when we do this properly, the efficiencies you get out of this are enormous. Just for example, if we're going to free staff up and we talk about 7 to 8%, and we have a product that runs for 2 hours, that's going to cost you about 15 minutes in time, but give you back an hour and 45 in labor. So I think from a business case and ROI perspective, it's something that's that's really impactful. And Tanya, in your eyes on the efficiency part regarding Winona, I mean, did you go through this period of evaluation? Was that something that the teams, experienced?
Well, absolutely. We have several floor care staff or I should say, we need several floor care staff to help us keep our building clean. And what we were struggling to find people come in. And so we started to look at this because even though, as Chris mentioned, there is some time that you have to invest in it to get it set up and running and change the water and do all of the things. It's really only a couple of minutes per runtime. And we actually saw since March, we have seen these machines clean 50% more floor in a day, right? So if you really consider that, even though we have to dedicate a little bit of staff time to setting them up and getting them running, 50% more cleaning is rather impressive. And then it frees up those staff members to go and do other things because these same people are in charge of helping, set up meeting rooms and doing other special projects and things like that. So the time invested in working with the cobot is well worth it in the return that you see.
And we have customers that talk about supplementing labor, and it might be labor they just flat out cannot find, and they will utilize automation to fill that gap in the interim. They may find labor, but then maybe lose labor elsewhere, and for them it's a good gap fill it's always there, always dependable, always something that you can kind of lean into and still get work done. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So one thing we see a lot, especially since the onset of COVID-19, is that our visitors and patients and even our staff and the public want to see us clean. Prior to COVID-19, everybody knew cleaning happened in the background and things like that. But once they started talking about how this spreads and whatever, we really we found that our customers, our patients really wanted to see proof that we're cleaning. And this is one thing that the Cobes do for us. They run all the time. They run in public areas. They run amongst our visitors, our patients in areas that are very out there and very front stage to our organization. And they just provide that perception that we are cleaning. Obviously, we know we're cleaning all the time, but being able to see it and see something happening just gives that kind of peace of mind to our patients and visitors that we're doing that. And it helps to provide the best patient care experience when they see that. And they might not even notice that they're seeing it, but or spend a lot of time paying attention to it. But just having it go, people are really, it creates some peace of mind.
Yeah, cleaning's become very visual, Tanya. I feel
Absolutely.
like the more people get used to automation. 5 years ago, folks weren't used to automation in the cleaning space. Today, 5 years later, you're seeing these things everywhere. So there's a lot more acceptability to it as your as patients come into the healthcare facilities. It's you almost hope that they don't recognize it, but you want them to recognize it for that visual clean piece, that perception, right? So yeah, totally get it.
Absolutely. One other thing it does is it shows that the organization is willing to invest in innovation. We see, and you may see in stores and things like that, there's some autonomous cleaning and things like that go on. But a couple of years ago, we didn't see that. And it is still a relatively new thought process. A lot of healthcare organizations are right on the edge of implementing these types of units for various reasons. And it just shows that we are invested in some innovation and looking at doing things a different way, because work is always evolving. And so we're not scared to try something new.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tanya and Chris. We have our second poll question for the audience. That should pop up on your screen here. It will give you about 20 seconds to answer that, and then we will again review the results together. So the question is with which of the following would you like the most support when it comes to keeping your healthcare facility clean? Is it increased and consistent cleaning, improved cleaning efficiency, improving the perception of your facility, creating a safer and healthier environment, augmenting labor, or other? Again, we appreciate everyone's participation, as we'd love to discuss how we can support cleaner facilities. Curtis, can you go ahead and reveal the answer? Okay, great. This one was a little split, but it looks like our biggest one was creating a safer and healthier environment. Second was augmenting labor. So I'll let Chris and Tanya comment on that.
Yeah, anytime you have answers that are that split, I think it means we probably should have had a G answer, which is all the above, because I think everybody would have chosen that. But it's definitely, again, robotics and automation can definitely help with many of those things. We'll dive into a few details here, but yeah, not surprised actually.
Oh, I agree. Not surprised. So it is expected by the year 2025, so about a year from now, that robotics will have about a $24.6 billion global market in the medical industry. At Winona Health, we use robotics already for many different things. We have a robotic surgery unit. We actually use our autonomous floor scrubbers, so our Kobe units, and we also have a vacuum called the Whiz that use. We also have UV light robotic units that help us sanitize our various areas and things like that. So, I mean, we are a very small community-based hospital, and we already have that much in the way of some robotic and autonomous pieces of equipment. So I can only imagine that it will gain in much larger medical facilities than ours very quickly.
And all that, to me, all that goes towards acceptability of automation across all spaces. It's not just patients, but also your staff, which to me, as we look at automation, and I know it's a topic coming up, it is a really key part of making automation work, is how your staff supports it. So, yeah.
So we talked a lot about, we've talked a lot about a safer and cleaner environment, and our floor cleaning robots absolutely contribute to that for our patients and staff and visitors, and they do it in several different ways. So they clean and they dry the floors almost instantly. So we reduce the chance of slips and falls from wet floors. We don't have to we still put out a wet floor sign because there can be, once in a while some residual wetness, but it's so minor and so minimized from the traditional methods of cleaning, so that it just really helps in safety and in risk. And it improves our air quality and respiratory issues that we might have seen, from just kind of flopping water on the floor and swishing it around and hoping that we're capturing everything. It's all contained. So there's no dirty water that is open to the air. There is no, wet floor. Nothing's waiting to air dry, nothing like that.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing, and it kind of goes back to the consistency from earlier, is, in automation, the machine's going to do it the same way every time. It's going to put down the right amount of water, not too much. They didn't hit a wrong button in terms of making the scrubber work, which maybe has too much water on the floor, which maybe leaves some and creates a slip hazard. Automation is going to do it the same way, the right way every time. And that's part of the consistency benefit that you get from automation, no matter what obviously you're implementing. Earlier we had a question specific to Wi-Fi and do autonomous components plug into Wi-Fi? In this case, Kobe, our scrubber, does it plug into Wi-Fi, or does it run on cellular? Technology is there for both. We actually do it as a benefit. We stay on cellular because we typically like to stay off internal networks. Reactions of being on those networks tend to differ from organization to organization. So our first start is always with cellular technology. And then in areas where we don't have the best of cellular service, there is the ability to do Wi-Fi. And I think that's an important distinction, that you have both capabilities there. So hopefully I answered that question there. I'm looking at it here in the chat, and we'll have Q&A time at the end, of course. And anything that we do cellular is not going to interfere with what you have currently in the hospital. So, and then on a Wi-Fi perspective, we typically find customers have dedicated Wi-Fi networks for vendors. They're not necessarily plugging into their, and I'm sure these teams have multiple levels of experience with that. So we tend to plug into one that's kind of off to the side. That's been our experience so far. So, I also want to touch on when it relates to, it's safety, not in the literal sense of, but more in security sense, and that is image capture. It's getting less and less of an issue, but obviously, in common areas, image capture is very sensitive, and not so much in patient rooms. We know that's very sensitive, but in common areas, the sensitivity of it, there's a number of ways to look at it. Our technology in specific uses something called point cloud technology. And if you see this image on this page here, that's exactly what the robot sees. It doesn't see an image, it actually sees a trace of an image, and it actually puts it into just in a point cloud, dot cloud, so it can formulate the image and make a decision on whether to go around it because it's stationary or wait because it's moving, and it makes that decision through our AI. So again, point cloud technology, pretty. This is newer stuff. This is new for the robotics sector, and it's something that you can have better peace of mind with on the security standpoint as it relates to safety. So pretty interesting stuff.
And I will just add that some of my other duties has to do with biomedical equipment and security and risk management in my organization. And this was a really big piece. When you bring in a piece of equipment that has a camera on it, you always worry about what does that camera see, what does it record, and what can it do? And having it show up a little bit like the Matrix, where you don't see people, you don't recognize people per se, you just see objects, was really a really big, huge deciding factor in what we wanted to go with, knowing that the machine was not recording or seeing anything specific to our organization.
Yeah. So okay, go ahead, Britt. So, sorry.
All right. So we have our last poll. Thank you, Tanya and Chris. Curtis, we have the poll pulled up here now. So we'll give you about 20 seconds to review that, and then we'll look at the results together. We have our third question as, what do you anticipate is the most challenging obstacle to overcome if you were to bring on autonomous cleaning equipment? Answers are training my team and their ongoing use of the equipment, changes to infrastructure and current cleaning processes, affordability, maintenance and service of the machine, or pushback from employees. Again, we appreciate everyone's responses so we can talk about how to best overcome those obstacles. Then we'll review the answers. Okay, well, this one was a big winner. So we had 60% of the audience say that affordability. All right,
Yeah.
pass it to Tanya and Chris.
Yeah, go ahead, Tanya. Yeah.
Like with anything, any purchase or agreement of new equipment, there's a cost to it. But at the end of the day, what we found is that there's also a cost to open FTEs, and there's also a cost to not being able to fill those positions, or cost to overtime to your current employees, your current employees not being able to take their vacation time, and so on and so on. So you can keep on talking about that. And so at the end of the day, we just evaluated the cost of having all of these open positions, what it was costing our employees to stay on and do the work that we needed to get done, and compare to the cost of bringing on the autonomous equipment, and found that we actually will save money by bringing it on. There was a cost, but at the end, we will actually come out better than we would the just keeping and hoping and praying that somebody will come and join our team. So.
Yeah, great insight, Tanya, and it really kind of leads into why it's so important, no matter what autonomous product you're considering, that you have somebody that can come in and speak to the implementation and speak to the business case around it, and work with you on properly surveying your site to determine how robotics will work in your environment, and what kind of ROI to expect with it. And that's something that we spend a lot of time doing. So I'm actually not surprised at the answer there. Britt, if you don't mind forwarding to the next slide there. And the next few slides here, we're talking about implementation, and we're talking about what's important as we come into facilities and we evaluate what you're trying to accomplish. And again, it speaks to, we truly want to find a mutual business case here, because We don't want to do that at the end. We want to try and see what it would look like in the beginning to see if it's something that the team can absorb and do it successfully. So, it's really important that you work with a customer that's going to, or with an automation team and company that will specialize in this. They will break your site into, and this is just a rough example you're looking at here, but break your site into various zones. Talk to you a little bit about how you clean those specific zones, the frequencies to which you do them, how many people do them as well, what type of tools do you use, and what type of other issues you may face when you're cleaning these areas. It as simple as it may seem, it can be complex based on a movement inside the hospital, and specific requirements may need to have regarding times of use and things like that. So we typically do all this ahead of time to determine types of routes to run, and so you get the most efficiency out of it. Tanya, if I could ask you, I mean, when you had this meeting at Winona, did you find it helpful in terms of thinking about automation the right way?
Absolutely. One thing I'll say is that ICE Cobotics really comes in and wants to be your partner in getting things ready to go. They come in, they, as Chris said, they survey things, they help you figure out what your best routes are going to look like. What is the best options? How do you navigate stairs? How do you navigate a space like a cafeteria where there could be many people in and out of it? What is the best time of day to do these areas? There's a lot. It ends up being very, very easy to work through with the team from ICE Cobotics to help you figure out what your best options are and just kind of get up and going.
Yeah. And again, I speak to you from ICE Cobotics viewpoint, but also just any automation you look to install. It is about process change, and that has to be one of the first things you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with process change on this specific task, automation may not be right for you. What will wind up happening is that will be forced down, and your employees won't accept it. And I think that's something you try to avoid as it relates to change management, and we also help with that as well. Another big point of getting automation not only to be attractive, but also have your staff confident with it, and ultimately you have great experience and great results is training. And this is another thing to be really mindful of when you bring out automation. What do their onboarding tools look like? Is there digital content? Is there in-person content? Is there stuff I can grab on demand? Is there certification programs? Are there training classes? Is there a formal program to starting this? And I think and this is just how we approached automation in the beginning inside the cleaning space. We knew this was very important. This, along with service, post-sale service, typically dictates our success or not, or automation success or not. So we spent a lot of time and resources building this. So this is something you definitely want to, ensure you're seeing. So, Tanya, was there any part of this that kind of spoke to the team post sale?
So what happened for us is that we brought in the idea of bringing in the Cobes and the automation, and we work very closely with our frontline team on any and all decisions that we make here. It's just kind of the way we work. They're our experts. We want them to feel comfortable with what's going on. So we actually identified a person within our team who really became a champion for our robotic work with Kobe. He is a floor care tech, had been with the organization for about a year, and just really became very interested in our Kobe machines. And he really took kind of the bull by the horn and then did a lot of the training, was the person who set up the routes and who worked through everything. And then having his buy-in created buy-in with the rest of the team. So as Chris said, they've got a whole host of online videos you can watch. You can basically search up and find anything if you're having any kind of problems, but I'll go right out on a limb and tell you that we don't hardly have any problems. These resources are really great and they're there to help you, but the machine and the use of it is so easy that you almost don't need videos. That's just how easy it is to use.
No, it's a great point about the champion. That I dare I say, when I see clients that have a champion and have that type of role, they're successful. When I don't see that, that's when a lot of things fall through the cracks, and you start to really lean on the things you're looking at here on this slide, all these resources, because if you have a champion, they're masters at this, and they tend to be your teacher internally, and so yeah, it's a great call, Tanya. I love that. Yep.
One of the really nice things.
Yeah,
Okay. One of the
no,
really
I think
nice
we're both
things
going to hit this, so go for it, Tanya.
about Kobe too is a way to check to make sure that it's working. So much, and one of the early on when we were investigating robotics, one of the first things we brought in was UV light technology here, and one of the major downfalls was not good data to show that the units were being used as they were intended, and that we were getting our money's worth and using them. And one of the awesome parts about the Kobe system is that they have kind of a back side for you to go in and see just how much time the units have been used, how much area they're cleaning. It maps it out for you. You can see previous data. You can measure your progress and how it might impact HCAP scores for cleanliness of the units. And you can really optimize your units, right? You can see, well, today we only used it for 6 hours when we have the potential to use it for more like 16. And how can we increase that and really get the best program out of this? And having this data helps us figure that out.
Yeah, and I would add too that this data also helps you as a facility teams, facility manager, depending on who uses this. It's just reinforcement. It's confidence that the work's getting done. I can see it. I visually see the floors. I see the data on the robot, and allows me to share my successes with other people inside the organization. So this is kind of a comfort blanket, so to speak. This data tool, which is named iSynergy, and it comes with every unit, every Kobe that's sold. This comes free of charge as part of the. So.
And at
Yeah,
times,
very useful.
We've been able to use it as almost a motivator. Last week, we only used the Kobe's, 6 hours. Let's try to increase that this week. We know we were missing staff or whatever was going on. But let's see if we can increase it. And there has even been a root beer float or two handed out when we beat our scores. So
nice, I like it. Yeah, that missed goal thing on the slide there. You can edit your own. The teams can put their own goals in, be it square footage or time, and it's indexed to create an index score there. So to Tanya's point, it's really easy to see how you're doing against it. And root beer floats, I like that. So yeah. So this is a little bit about really, I think when you get past just the robot, the cobot, there's a lot more that goes into it. And so for us personally, we found that the technology is moving so rapidly that it's probably better for clients to experience this through just a monthly payment versus a big capital investment. So, for us, we have an all-inclusive program that has a very small payment that's made that essentially gives you access to the product, service, parts, data analytics, our client care support, all our training tools and resource centers. And for us, it's just an easy way from a budgeting standpoint for folks to know that I won't pay another dime. You know, it's this number and there won't be anything else. And then after the period's over, there's a high probability that we'll have something better to bring through you. And our service program, and Tanya touched on it earlier, you know, the program for this, it's a small enough unit that if there's a problem we can't solve through our triage group, we just send you a new unit, and we take the one that's on your site, and it's boxed up and sent back, and it's all prepaid. And you just have to make that part of it easy for customers to experience that. So for us, we've just found this is just a simpler way to do it, and we've had good success with it. So
yeah, I will say Coby is kind of ever evolving, and just one example is we have 2 of these machines on our campus. And a couple of weeks ago, we got 2 brand new ones because they had made some updates. And rather than sending somebody to come and repair the portions or update the portions that were changed, they just sent us 2 brand new ones with the updates included, already loaded with all of our routes and all of the things that we need. And so it was as easy as taking them out of the box and charging them up and using them and sending the old ones back. And even if, you know, and in my experience, if we end up with something, a piece that breaks or something that happens, we're usually dispatched, whatever it is, or a person to come and look at it within 24 hours. So we're very rarely down for more than a day or 2. And that is only in extreme situations where we can't repair it ourselves. So there are times when something happens and they can send us just a part and we can pop it in and we're ready to go again.
Yeah, it's great. It's great thoughts there, Tanya. Yeah.
So we're going to show a little bit of a video while I'm talking here, but one of the key pieces of this is to treat your robots or your cobots like they're part of the team. If you don't get buy-in from the rest of your staff and how you can implement them into the daily use and really make them as part of the team, then you're going to struggle to get it running, the program up and running. So one of the things that we did was we hosted a naming contest. Within our environmental services team, we had come up with a couple of really fun kind of robot type names, and everybody voted on them. And we have 2 of these machines. One of them is named Mr. Clean Jr., and the other one is named Scrubella DeVille. They each boast their own Winona Health name badge while they're working. And at times we've seen them with party hats or pictures or googly eyes or whatever. So they really just become part of what happens here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that.
Robotics for us has made a huge impact at my facility. We have more time to spend doing other work that needs a personal touch. We have a really improved floors. They're very clean. And I know there's a question about this in the Q&A that we'll probably touch on later, but at my facility, we have several types of floors, including terrazzo, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl flooring. There's just a ton of different types of floors, and Coby works on every single one of them. And you don't have to necessarily put thought into the transition. So the floors are cleaner. It's done faster. The quality is great. We have increased, you can visually see increased cleanliness in the areas. It's safer. And then it shows some innovation in our facility that we're willing to invest in this technology.
Yeah, no, it's well said. I think HCAP scores can be impacted by this. And I think we didn't really touch on the sound of Coby as well, but it's also an incredibly quiet sub 68 dBA unit. So you're not going to have issues with sound, so it could be used in and around patient rooms, but definitely around patient rooms during off hours. So.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, Tanya and Chris. We're going to open it up for Q&A. I think we have some questions in the chat here that we can start with. I know, Chris, you hit on the Wi-Fi signal. Do you want to touch on any more of that, or should we go to the next question?
I think we got that. Yeah. Or so if you have any other questions, let us know. Yeah.
Yeah. The first question is, what is the performance assessment of the autonomous cleaning robot when tasked with cleaning NORA, capital N-O-R-A, rubber floors?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we will come out and do site assessments just to ensure, because there's various floor types that exist out there. Mondo floors, the rubberized floors, we've been able to use Cobi on. It's used in the higher max mode. There's two different cleaning modes. It's used in the higher max mode, so you don't lose any water pickup capabilities there. So there's multiple surfaces, this hard floor surfaces that this will cover. We've had zero challenges with floors like LVP, vinyl plank, vinyl tile, terrazzo, all the ones you see there. Really, no challenges at all with respect to that. And Tanya, I mean, you probably have a lot of these various surfaces in your facility as well.
We do, even in areas where we have like 18-inch ceramic tiles with grout lines, and we've seen a drastic improvement in how those tiles get cleaned there. They've got a little bit of texture on them, and our regular floor machines and mops really weren't doing a very good job of handling that, and these machines do a really great job of managing that. And then, like I said, you can, most of the time I could transition from that 18-inch ceramic tile to a terrazzo floor without any adjustment to the machine. There are some slightly different brushes and squeegees and things that you can use, but for the most part you can transition seamlessly without any issue.
Yeah, and even the grout lines, even the thicker grout lines, the benefit of having a cylindrical scrub brush on this is it'll get in those grout lines and clean them more effectively. So you will see grout improvement as well. Although, typically in healthcare, you don't see thicker grout lines. It's either no grout lines or a continuous tile. So, right. But that's just a benefit of the cleaning process. So, but happy to do an evaluation to make sure we're touching on all the floor types that exist out there. That should come with any evaluation that you consider. So.
Great. Then we have another question, the one in the Q&A. Can you expand more on how finding a service provider with an all-inclusive support helps with managing budgets and operations and maintenance expenditures?
I guess I can chime in on this one here, Tanya. Machines have downtime. No matter who you are, what it is, there will be time when the machine will need service. And the ability for the machine to be serviced easily on an interim basis or on a long-term basis on a deeper break fix is crucial. Like whatever you look into, make sure that part of it is fully investigated. So so you want to have a service group you understand, believe in, and have confidence in. And you want to make sure, especially if you're managing multiple sites, that it's ideally one process that you're managing for that to make calls and to get a service tech out in the field. So in our case, we utilize one vendor. We try to make it simple. We have one national vendor, and then the calls still come into us. We handle everything, and so we try to make it a little simple so you don't have to call service company A for this, service company B for that site. You can just call us, and we will dispatch the techs that have all been trained on that. So yeah, very important. Good question.
And on the client side of things, looking at something that it's an all-in-one package that you know that it's not going to break and your internal facilities or biomed team is struggling to find parts for, that somebody who is not familiar with the machine is trying to figure out how they can make it work again. It's a little bit like leasing a car, knowing that you're going to have kind of that protection no matter what goes on, and that you don't have this huge investment wrapped into purchasing a piece of equipment that you're not really sure if you're going to be able to repair or what it's going to cost to repair if something happens. This subscription plan and an all-in-one plan that is going on here just ensures us that we will have a machine that runs and it will be repaired one way or another. Everything is covered. There's no questions asked.
We have another question. It says, does Coby use water only, or may cleaning agents be used in Coby?
Your normal cleaning process is just fine. Yes, you can scrub with just water, but obviously you want to introduce chemistry into it, and whatever your normal chemistry process is just fine for Coby. We do not sell or have a proprietary chemical need. So for Coby.
Next question we have is, can you provide an example of how someone has used cleaning data to improve cleaning processes at their facility?
So we did kind of just like how I described. We ran our machines for a couple of weeks. We looked at the data that we got back from those machines and analyzed to what areas can we do better in, what other areas can we introduce these machines into, and where else can we use them, and how can we maximize what we have. And it really is just that simple. You have to take the time to see where you're using them, what areas need the most attention, where it can benefit. But just by using the information you have, you can make adjustments to your cleaning program and make things more efficient and work better, be cleaner.
Yeah, we find clients utilize that data to validate their business case, especially if they're ordering a robot or multiple robots for multiple locations. They can't be everywhere, and it's a great validator of the business case. I know there's a question in the webinar chat about in specific a larger healthcare facility over 1.5 million square feet. Should we expect to do that with one Coby, or how? Again, I think it's good to do a survey of the facility to understand your cleaning process of what you're trying to accomplish, the frequencies, before you make a recommendation. That's an awful big space, and depending on the size of the hallways or open areas you're trying to get, it might impact what a recommendation would be. So suggest you have someone speak to someone to just chat a little bit about just doing a floor survey. You can even do it something as simple as looking at a floor plan. It can be done. So.
Great. We have another question. What is the benefit to my cleaning team of the online certification?
Yeah, I guess I could take that one, Tanya. It's about one thing to me. It's about confidence. Mechanized equipment, robots, sometimes they can be, as much as we sit here and say they're easy, sometimes they can be intimidating. And if you're a brand new employee on a cleaning team, you've never worked with a robot or a 32-inch auto scrubber, they could be intimidating. And a quick little certification quiz, test, review gives you the capability as a team lead or facility manager to say, yep, you're a certified operator of this robot, and you've been taught what you need to be successful. And I think to me, it just boils down to, pushing that confidence across so that when you adopt automation, you're successful ultimately. So.
I agree. It fosters confidence. And then the rest of the team feeds off that confidence and buys into the processes.
Yeah, I would imagine, Tanya, you're a robot specialist, you're a champion, you mentioned, that'll be a great person to have certified. Like they have beaming with confidence, and then when they go to teach, it's a lot easier for their coworkers to absorb it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
We have another question. Should one perform dust mopping prior to deploying the autonomous robot?
I would say it probably certainly helps to clean up any large pieces of debris on the floors, but I would say, depending on your area, it's probably not 100% necessary all of the time. You really just have to figure out, we still dust mop all of our areas every single day. It doesn't mean that we dust mop and then immediately deploy the Kobe. They might happen on 2 different shifts, but you're going to want to dust mop to pick up any debris anyway, to keep your organization clean and looking anyhow. And so I don't know if it's immediately necessary to do just before you deploy the Kobe's, but yes.
Yeah, if you're in a retail store and you have those little tags that fall off hangers running everywhere, yeah, definitely pre-sweep. But would totally agree with you, Tanya. Your healthcare facilities are probably pretty clean to begin with. They have to be, and I would imagine you will have less of a need. But I like doing it. But yeah, I know how it can be out there. So.
Thank you. Another question, where do you recommend healthcare facilities deploy robotic floor solutions in healthcare facilities? Do you have any examples you can share?
We use them everywhere that we can. So we use them in hallways. We use them in and out of patient rooms in specific times. So obviously we're not sending a Kobe robot into a patient room while there's somebody having a procedure or resting after a procedure, but we use them as part of our terminal clean process once a patient is discharged, because it's just one less thing that our staff have to do in there. They can get in there, clean, set the robot, and then go to the next room and clean while that robot is cleaning the floor. I mentioned before that Winona Health is really a healthcare facility that has lots of different pieces to it, and included in that is a long-term care facility that is attached to our building. We actually use our Kobe robots in and amongst our public areas in our long-term care facility because they're so quiet. They're so much quieter than traditional floor scrubbing machines, and it is a fairly large area, so it's not a mop and bucket situation. Our residents were complaining that our floor care machines were so noisy, they couldn't enjoy their activities and things like that, and there really wasn't a good time to use them. The Kobe's are so quiet that they can be deployed at any time during the day. So truly, we use them in any and all area that we can use them in.
Great.
Yeah.
And you touched a little bit on traditional scrubbers. That ties in nicely to the next question. Someone's asking, how is it autonomous cleaning equipment more efficient than traditional cleaning equipment?
I think the best and easiest answer to that is it doesn't require a person to be with it all the time. Like we mentioned earlier, that there is a little bit of setup time, and that there is a little bit of manually, making sure that the routes are set and that the machine is filled with water or emptied or whatever. But it really amounts to about 15 minutes in a 2-hour run cycle. Traditionally, if I'm using a ride along floor scrubber, or even one that needs to be walked behind, I have a person dedicated for that entire cycle that it's being used. So if I got a piece of, if I've got floor that takes 2 hours to scrub, that means somebody's tied up for 2 hours with it. With a Kobe, somebody's tied up for 15 minutes with it.
Yeah, I'll go back to the consistency piece as well, which is would be another big one. It is it's going to put down the same amount of water. It's going to run the route. It's not going to unintentionally run into a table or something that could damage it. So you're going to have equipment that in theory lasts longer because it's going to be taken care of and run the right way. And I think it's that consistency piece that is another side benefit to automation of you provided you put the right chemicals in at the right dosing, the machine is going to treat you really well. So, and also too on that, and the maintenance side of it, the what I'll call interim maintenance, that the daily maintenance or weekly maintenance that a customer would have to take on, it should be easy, and that's usually one big difference between the two categories. There's a lot going on with a mechanized scrubber, where I think on the autonomous side, especially in our unit, it's a lot more straightforward, a lot more simpler to operate. The things you need to touch and tackle and clean are very clear. They're yellow. It's very noticeable of what needs to get done, and we encourage that, obviously. So yeah.
I mean, and I would even add to the point of, like, you can't even put the brushes in wrong because
Right.
they only fit one way. One peg is square and one peg is round, and that's just the way it is. So you can't even put it together backwards, even if you tried.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Yep. Good. We have another question. How is the route programmed for the autonomous robot?
There's three cleaning modes to Cobi. You can do a custom route, which is basically a teach and repeat. It goes where you go with the unit. So if you teach it to run it in a certain way, it runs that exact way. Another route is called an autofill, which basically it's a fill-in where you trace the perimeter of a room, and Cobi automatically fills in the inside of it through using AI, their sensor package, LiDAR, all that good stuff. And then the third way, it can be used in manual mode. And we still sell that as a part of this because you do need that flexibility sometimes, especially if you have a code event on your floor. You want to make sure that you can quickly move Cobi if it needs to be moved. It's not stuck there, and you can do that with Cobi. So 3 modes.
Yep, and you do spend, upon initially getting it, one of the team members from Cobi will come out and help you design your routes and what you want to do. And you do spend a bit of time training the machine. So your initial part of the setup is kind of walking the machine around, teaching it what the route is that you want it to do, and then it goes on its own.
Great. Well, that is all the questions we have. We're just about at time. So just want to thank you again, Tanya and Chris, and thank us everyone for joining our webinar today. We appreciate your time.
Yep, thank you.